You guys, reef tanks are one of the most beautiful, relaxing, and colorful additions to your home. So can you really put a price on having a slice of ocean in your own home? Yeah, of course you can. That's like a really dumb question. I think typically we just don't talk about price that much because it leads to a lot of arguments with, your significant other or your partner about how they're like, oh, hey, you're not being responsible with like your life savings and everything, as though like reefing isn't life, But anyways, having that slice of ocean in your house can actually be pretty expensive, but I don't think it always needs to be. With that, let's dive right into the cost of my reef. Let's navigate those financial waters and let's chart a course to a cheaper reef tank. That was in fact all of the saltwater ocean related puns that I could fit into a sentence there. I hope you like that. Basically, we're just gonna break down exactly how much I paid for each part of my reef tank, so that way you guys can get an idea of how much it would cost to start your own version of exactly what I have here. By here, I mean over there, in that part of the room. So when it comes to making a reef tank, there's really about 3 categories that I think all the expenses fall into, but people really typically only, I think, consider the first of these 3 categories. Not my credit card though. Nope, that one, no, it doesn't forget. The banks, unfortunately, the banks don't forget.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
So if you haven't already guessed it, those 3 categories are 1, the initial tank setup. Then you have like the accessories, right? These are like the pumps, the skimmers, the heaters, things where like if you want to have a successful tank, you'll probably still need them, but they're not really the core box that holds the water, a water box, you could say. That was terrible. I don't even have a water box. And then lastly, the 3rd category is going to be everything that you put in the tank in terms of the livestock. This is not a category I'm going to get into today because that can be extremely expensive and this video will probably already be way too long. So let's just begin by starting with those core items, that category number 1. And I would say that this is just composed of a couple parts. Starting with, you guessed it, the rock. No, I'm joking, we'll get there. But first, we're gonna start with the tank itself. This is the heart and soul of the entire setup. My tank was a Marineland 5-gallon that I got off of Amazon for $61, which I felt was actually a pretty reasonable price for the tank. I really liked it. I said, this seems like a good price. I clicked add to cart, and then it showed up at my door. From there, we move on to the rock. There's a large variety of different rocks that you can get for your aquascape, but lately I've been really into Marco Rock. I think it's the easiest to smash up into little pieces with a hammer and then glue back together into whatever sort of aquascape you want. Now, Live Aquaria suggests about 1.5 pounds of rock per gallon in your aquarium, so I ended up buying 10 pounds because I'm an overachiever and because I wanted to smash it up and re-glue it back together and figured there'd be extra, the more pieces the merrier. But those 10 pounds of Marco Rock ended up putting me back about another $45. Then lastly, we have the sand for the tank. I decided to use sand. You could go bare bottom. This isn't a video about whether you should go bare bottom or put sand in your tank or even what sand you should put in your tank. I just put in the one I got from Petco, which was $13. Now, water is pretty negligible, but assuming you're buying pre-made salt water, you can probably expect that to be around 50 cents per gallon. I have a 5-gallon fish tank, so if you do the math, it cost me about $5. Now, you may say that math doesn't add up. Well, I didn't tell you how many gallons I purchased. Just that I have a 5-gallon tank. I ended up purchasing 10 gallons. I think it's always great to have a little bit extra on the side to be safe for the water changes, stuff like that. So I ended up buying 10 gallons of water, $5. Easy. So if you're following, you just set up a tank. Nothing is going to grow in it. You could maybe start a dark cycle with that, but you've got a tank. It only cost you $124. But now let's say we decide we want to use the tank for more than just being an expensive water feature, but now a more expensive water feature with things in it. And with that, we then need to get to the accessory stage of the expenses, starting with probably one of the most important pieces, the light. Now, just because I said accessory doesn't mean it is not necessary. Now, I have seen people grow tanks with just sunlight. There are successful tanks that are outdoor. I would not recommend any of this, but it can be done. That being said, I chose to get a light for my tank because I did not want to put it outside, and I don't get enough sunlight anyways, and it's tiny, waterproof. Anyway, you get the idea. There's lots of issues. Now, the light is typically by far one of the most expensive parts of putting together a tank. For mine, I went with an AI Prime, which is obscenely expensive. Why did I go with such an expensive light? Well, I wanted to upgrade or have the option to upgrade to a bigger tank in the future, and I felt like that just made sense for me. Altogether, the AI Prime light and the gooseneck for it was, and this hurts me to say, but it was $280. Please don't tell any of my family and friends how much I spent on that light. I'm serious. A quick moment of silence for my wallet, please. Okay, sweet, and now we're back. So would I buy this light again? Perhaps for a bigger tank, but probably not if I was doing the same thing again. I have grown coral using just like a $60 light from Amazon. It's absolutely possible to go cheaper. You can buy these lights used as well. So going with a different lighting option will easily save you probably about $100 to $200 here. Basically just don't be like me here. And another example of where you probably should not be like me is with the heater. I am using a Cobalt 50-watt heater, which is again way more power than I really truly need. Now, this heater ran me about $55, which is actually a really steep price to pay for just a heater, where you can oftentimes get them for somewhere in like the range of $20 to $40. But Cobalt has been known for its really great quality, and with heaters being one of those pieces of a tank that can immediately kill everything if something goes wrong, I wanted to make sure that I had a good quality heater in my system. I figured I'll pay a little extra for that peace of mind. But with that, you've got your tank, sand, rock, light, heater. Now you're ready for your tank, right? Not really. There's a few other things as well that you are going to need. They may not be required, but you are going to thank yourself so much if you have them. Starting with a scraper. Now, I got the Flipper Pico scraper for $18. I have a full video on my thoughts about that scraper if you want to go see it. But yeah, no, you should go watch it. It's a good one. It's a really good one. I also got a bucket and tubing for water changes, which together was $25. And then I also got some additional filtration. I'm talking like filter floss here. I'm talking bio balls. Well, not quite bio balls, but a version of it. I'm talking carbon. All of which I run in my tank, and it together cost me about $20. And then lastly, you should have a way to measure your parameter. I'm talking your ammonia, your nitrate, your nitrites, your pH, your salinity, all of that. You throw in a phosphate test in there, even better. But for me, I've actually been using the API test kit for saltwater, which ran me $35. And then a salinity checker for another $20 on top of that. And now at this point, you are finally ready to start your fish tank. Your reef tank, I should say. So all in all, how much did it cost me to start this Pico tank? Well, if you've been following and doing the math, you can create the same thing for $577. Hopefully this doesn't deter you from starting your own tank. I know this can be a very steep price tag to hear, but there are still a lot of ways to be thrifty and save money. As I said, you can probably save anywhere from $100 to $200 on the lights. You can save some on the heater. You can buy your tank used, which will also be a lot cheaper as well. So there's a lot of ways to reduce this down to somewhere in the range of around $300 to $350. Now, I know we did not get into the cost of my livestock itself, and that is because this video is already way too long. So if you want to hear about my livestock and what I put in this tank and how much that all costs, please leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe. But that's it for now, you guys. I hope you enjoyed that one. I'm Alice, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.